Non-profit organisation Sakeliga is rejecting changes to the Employment Equity Act. The president signed that into law last week. Now, they say they're preparing to go to court to challenge this, also working with other organisations. For now, let's find out where they stand on this. The CEO of the organisation, it's Piet Le Roux, joining us this morning. Piet, good morning to you. I hope you can hear me. We are live now. I know we had an audio issue. I'm not sure if I got the name of the organisation right, so if I didn't and I butchered it, please correct me on that. But tell me, first of all, why heading to court on this? What don't you agree with?
You're quite excellently pronounced Sakeliga. It simply means business league. We're an organization of businesses acting in the public interest to create a favorable business environment. We challenge the litigation, and we will be challenging it in court together with many other organizations, because it is harmful and because it is fundamentally unconstitutional. It is unacceptable both inside and outside South Africa. And anything that is harmful, we consider that our constitutional duty to oppose, because we need to build a flourishing society. And harmful interventions like these, ill thought through, well, they are to the detriment of the public businesses should serve.
So can you help me just understand, for viewers who aren't in the legal fraternity, they aren't working for an NGO, for example, as well, is there one part of this that got your attention where, as an NGO, you sat back and thought, no, we've got to fight this? What's the one part that stood out for you that you feel is unacceptable, in violation of the Constitution, and has to be fought? Because I know that these bills and these acts and these laws can get very complicated. So what's the one part that really got the hair on your back to stand up?
Yes, the most objectionable part of this legislation is the ability that is given to one or two ministers to set quotas, to describe percentages that businesses need to comply to in their employment, and that is mostly based on race. Now, until now, businesses were, they could employ who they thought is proper and is available, and depending on their circumstances. What this bill and this act now purports to do is purports to give to one or two officials in the country, some ministers, the opportunity to tell any business in the country how many people of different races they should employ. For now, this is limited to companies with 50 or more employees. But we know how these legislation things develop. Very soon it will just be any company, because the principle will already be conceded. And we think it is fundamentally unconstitutional, unacceptable anywhere in the world to have a government tell a whole economy and all the businesses in it how the composition of their employees should look like. It brings in all sorts of moral and ethical dilemmas as well. But basically that is the objectionable part.
And I see as well that Solidarity, which I'm sure we have heard from here on ENCA, the DA also going to be joining Solidarity's legal action on this. So there was no doubt, Piet, this was going to get a lot of legal reaction. I want to just bring in the other argument on this, just reading an article on News 24, just to give another perspective. BUSA, I'm not sure if you would have seen this, Business Unity SA welcoming this step, saying that it gives an end to a period of uncertainty, but also, and I quote, forms part of the transformation agenda as well. So how do you then counter what BUSA is saying in this? Are they wrong or are they right? It's just the way it's been implemented.
BUSA is wrong. Virtually all businesses inside and outside South Africa would advise the government against the steps they are taking now, because they understand what that means in practice, the raising of costs and the increased difficulty of running a business under such a regime. BUSA is mistaken when it thinks that certainty is the condition for a favorable business environment. A favorable business environment is within conducive regulatory regime, within an environment where businesses are able to operate as they see fit. We don't understand the magic entrepreneurs make. And it's important not to restrict them in this way with government restrictions. So I think BUSA is mistaken when they think certainty is the important thing. conducive environment is the important thing.
They go further as well. Forgive me, Piet. They do go further as well. They say that given some areas of the bill are still problematic, they're going to continue engaging with the Department of Labour, because you picked something up that I'd like to add in as well. One of their concerns is around the fragmentation of policy objectives and enforcement mechanisms within government. So they don't wholeheartedly agree, but they certainly do agree more than I imagine you do.
Well, I think when something is as objectionable as this, and I think it's better to be clear that the bill is unacceptable. We shouldn't give the bill or the new act a pass just because some smaller aspects of it are not too problematic. Because the essence of it, the key thing in it is so objectionable. That is, so we should describe the bill as unacceptable in general, and then we can make exceptions for those parts that are acceptable. So I would turn that approach quite around.
And let me just, in brief, as I say goodbye to you, Piet, how high up the court order is this going to go? Is this going to go to SCA? Is this going to go to the Constitutional High Court? What's your next step in fighting this through litigation?
Well, matters like these normally start in the High Court, and then depending on the outcome, normally in cases like these where government has signaled and the other parties have signaled their commitment and their strong views, it normally goes to the Supreme Court of Appeal and eventually to the Constitutional Court. This is an important question, and it will determine the kind of society we have going forward. Do we have a government telling businesses who they should employ, or do we leave it to businesses to employ as they see fit? And remember, final thing, this is not only about if you want to do business with the government. This is a government thinking it can tell any business, even if they don't do any business with government, how they should employ. Even family businesses, this is completely unacceptable. And it's a power play by government to see how strong civil society resists. And that's why I would encourage BUSA and other organizations to resist. This is the right thing to do at the moment.
I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I was about to say goodbye to you. Just briefly on this. Are you against employment equity? Is that what I'm hearing, or am I misunderstanding you?
Look, if we accept the new act, then that will be the definition of employment equity. And we consider this to be an unacceptable definition of employment equity. A definition of employment equity which says that government can go to any business and give it quotas telling it how its racial or any other composition of its staff should be is unacceptable.
I wanted to just clarify and make sure I did understand you correctly before I say goodbye. Piet, thank you very much indeed for your time in joining us. Sakeliga CEO, Piet Le Roux, no doubt.